I've been very cautious about Pixar's new show Win or Lose, and I know I wasn't the only one. I think almost everyone who watched that first trailer were really biting their nails on this show. Like, is this even Pixar? What's going on with the style here? I didn't know Pixar and Grubhub had a collab going on here. Now, the studio is still finding their footing when releasing new series on Disney+. Monsters at Work had its fans, but most felt underwhelmed by the project. Whereas Dream Productions actually had more praise surrounding it, but I felt as if people already forgot about its existence. But this time around, Pixar is actually creating an original miniseries focusing on the lives of an amateur softball team. And I've said before, I like it when animation studios actually go back to original creations rather than sticking to their famous franchises. But man, that first trailer really sucked out any enjoyment or hype I had surrounding it. Like, it just felt too memey, really cringe, trying to pander to Gen Alpha with its zaniness. And like I said, the animation style just didn't feel like Pixar. And I know the studio's been mixing their style a little bit more, like with Luca and Turning Red and the upcoming Elio, but something just felt off here, like really off. So I just decided to leave it behind and watch something more of my interest. Then I started hearing a little bit of buzz around it. More and more people were showing great enthusiasm and started spreading the word about how good it was. And eventually, it got to me. And hey, I want to show support to one of my favorite studios out there, so here I am. I finished all 8 episodes of Win or Lose, and I definitely have some thoughts. But overall, did I think this original Disney Plus miniseries ended up being a huge win for the studio, or a massive L?
Maybe. Winning is just a matter of how you look at it.
So, Win or Lose takes place around this championship game of our main softball team, the Pickles. And in each of our 8 episodes, we see a new character taking the limelight and showing their perspectives and reactions leading up to the big game. Some episodes show the players themselves, going through school troubles and problems at home as well, and some episodes showcase the adults in the show as well, definitely giving that image of more mature audiences being able to relate as well. And it all ties together in the final episode when all character struggles are shown together and shows everyone's perspectives colliding together to create pure chaos. Well, kind of, but we'll definitely get to that. Now, I actually kind of like anthology series. Seeing different characters that end up having their central plot threads come together in the end can work. And with this being a sports-themed miniseries, with the championship game coming into place, that should be a grand slam. Yeah, I'm gonna be making all the baseball puns I want, shut up. Now, the overlapping does have its problems, with a lot of different plot holes exposed, and we'll get to those in a minute. But I would be remiss if I didn't say some of these characters really fall into great, to unimpressive, to utter enragement. And it also helps, or in some cases doesn't help, that these characters have these visions or imaginations that represent their insecurities, their anxieties, or coping mechanisms. Like, this girl has an imaginary friend that represents her anxieties as failing all the time. Or this umpire who uses his coping mechanism as a suit of armor when facing harsh words from the crowd. I remember seeing this idea in the trailer and thought it was kind of a dumb idea of trying to show the audience everyone's insecurities instead of just allowing them to figure it out themselves. Like they were catering or talking down to them like, oh see, this character is sinking to the ground because they're sad. Do you see, Billy? She's sad. I mean, that was my first thought. But overall, seeing how the series plays these ideas, I think they ultimately work for some characters.
This is good, because it's high stakes, and that's the kind we like.
Let's start with the show's first central character, Lori. Lori is your typical shy, timid, and anxious character who isn't really that great at softball. No matter how hard she tries, whether up to bat or out in the field, she just seems to have the worst luck possible. It also doesn't help that her coach happens to be her dad as well. So, the feeling of disappointment is immeasurable. I think with most of the cliches we see in this character to other media, she probably is the best character to start off the series, as we get to more complex characters down the road. Not saying that Lori is bad per se, but we've all seen these types of characters before. The worst player on the team who wants to be the best, envious of more all-star players, feeling like they're laying their whole team down, like so many other sports movies. But what makes this more unique is her anxiety that transforms into the sweaty little creature that constantly talks down to her.
Yeah, Judas.
And this is what makes Lori a little more refreshing. Too bad Pixar did this far better less than a year ago.
Hello, everybody!
Do you see where I'm going with this? We've all seen Inside Out 2, correct? Anxiety in that movie is the perfect personification of what makes the emotion or idea of anxiety work. Here, the idea feels more inferior by replacing it with Miss Sweaty Balls over here. There are some moments where Sweaty plays off for laughs, but I kind of found them a little annoying with how much insecurity Lori has, where the sweat meat has to talk about every little detail of how Lori is feeling.
If he was just your coach, I'd be like, don't disappoint him. But because he's your coach and your dad, I'm like, really, do not.
So Sweaty pretty much consumes her at the big game, which her dad notices and tries to calm her down, getting rid of her anxiety. And really, all I can think about watching this is that one fib from VeggieTales who also grows large. So yeah, VeggieTales is better at this kind of storytelling. Like I said, I don't really mind this kind of character being the pilot for the series, as we can probably get the basic storylines out of the way first and really get into the most heart-wrenching ones later. One big plus is at the end here, when Lori just goes full body on this pitch. Alright, so the first episode is fine, but what about episode 2? This time we see our first adult on the show, the softball umpire who is also a teacher at the local middle school, Frank. Frank is a pretty focused and serious person, whether teaching or being an umpire out on the field, with his imaginary suit of armor helping him block out criticisms between angry fans from the bleachers.
Stand by my call. That's game. Pickles 5-4.
However, this lowers his social skills at any chance, especially after dealing with a breakup with another teacher from the school, since Frank can't really commit to a marriage. Frank definitely feels like a character you want to root for, wanting to help him get back off his feet, but this episode kind of does him dirty a little bit, not really fleshing him out as a character that much, as this is the only real development he gets throughout the series. The whole plot of the story is Frank trying to get into the online dating scene with assistance from the school janitor Francis, which for some reason people are going gaga for.
Let me see. That. Hey, give me my phone.
Frankie Pooh, it's not that difficult. Pizza. Oh, come on now, this just breaks my heart.
Ooh boy, sorry everyone, I don't really care for Francis that much. This man should not be allowed within a 15-yard radius from a school. And look, I was digging the part where Frank actually seemed happy with this new flame he was interacting with online, until he just threw it all away trying to get back with his ex, only to find out that she's now married to someone else. And that just leaves Frank all whimpery throughout the remainder of the episode, even at the championships. This episode is just really sad to watch, and that's not a good thing. I was really cringing throughout the whole coffee scene. Gosh, why does that barista look like that? She belongs in that one show from Cartoon Network, Chopsocky Chooks. This one mom, Vanessa, just carried her way into bullying Frank from calling her daughter a cheater. And I know this is how Frank snaps out of his delusions to try to get back with his ex, but like, still, did you not just see what she just did?
She was near it, and I assumed.
Assumed? So you assumed guilt?
Yes. No.
I do like this whole internet persona avatars the characters have, which we will see throughout the season. Too bad we'll never see this girl Frank was flirting with, since he just threw it all away.
I'm sorry. I realized I haven't moved on from my ex. But I'd love to be friends!
I guess I don't really entirely blame the writers for not doing that much with Frank, since it seems the main focus wants to be the actual pickle players, but they could have done something to make him stand out. Show more of his nerdy side. It seemed like he was facing his online dating as a video game. Show more of his book smarts. I would actually love to see his teaching style here. But alas, there was so much potential for this guy, but it ended up falling a bit flat for me. Don't worry though, we'll definitely get a better episode coming up that stars a very minor character. So the first 2 episodes feel a little bit underwhelming, but what about these next 2? After all, these episodes actually follow the show's mother and daughter relationship. Oh no, it's the Karen, no!
Baby, let me stop you right there. Rochelle said she didn't cheat on any tests, so she didn't cheat.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would.
Okay, episode 3 stars Rochelle, the team's catcher, and Lori's best friend. First impressions from that first trailer, I honestly thought that she was going to be that obnoxiously loud friend hooting and hollering, but man, I'm so glad that wasn't the case. Rochelle falls under a low-income family, and tries to earn enough money to allow her to keep playing softball with her friends. With this, she transforms into this tall businesswoman, which allows her more mature side to come through. And even at a young age, she feels more responsible than her mom, who is much more irresponsible and tries to be a social media influencer. Oh gosh, I hate this character so much.
Are you serious right now, bro?
But that also makes me appreciate Rochelle a lot more. Yeah, she could be placed under that girl boss pseudonym, but honestly, her motives is what makes her stand out. Rochelle is a straight A student, so when softball gets more expensive, she actually uses her smarts as an advantage to make money off of students who need tutoring. And she also almost reaches her goals too. Until this one scene that was shown earlier in Frank's episode when she gets caught passing a note full of answers. And things just start going downhill for Rochelle when she decides to sell her brand new shoes her mom got her in order to make the final amount of money for softball.
How much do you want for them?
200.
Deal. If you can deliver it this Saturday.
For being a shorter episode, the progression runs smooth as we see how Rochelle tries to get out of this dilemma, with the confrontation of her mom and evading blame of cheating, to running away from the buyers, or bleacher creatures as they're called, for trying to steal the shoes and also the keys to the concession stand. And oh my gosh, her insecurity is the best one so far, as when she's stressed, the whole environment around her just starts floating like zero gravity. And that final scene of her trying to contact her mom on the payphone just feels so powerful. I'm in awe. And this episode also overlaps with the next episode starring, Vanessa.
I'm done. No!
Look, I'm glad I'm not the only one that didn't vibe with the mom here. She just seems so unlikable with the neglecting of her daughter, her childish personality, her sassy social media status. She's always on her phone. But, and this is a big but, they actually make her character a little bit enjoyable here. See, we now get Vanessa's perspective throughout all of Rochelle's problems past episode. Yeah, Vanessa is still going full-time influencer, but the reasoning being she got fired from her job because her boss wouldn't let her take some time off her shift to check on her infant son. Also, look at her boss. He looks 19, how did he get the position? What the fuck? And look, Vanessa is also doing some side hustles here and there as well, like being this Uber driver at night, and also finally securing a job at a gym, while also trying to train her son into not biting other kids. And it's enough to buy Rochelle new sneakers that, you know, end up being sold to the bleacher creatures. We also get the cheating incident where Vanessa confronts Rochelle and feels concerned that her daughter has been lying to her. She ultimately finds out about Rochelle's business with cheating and the sneakers and goes to the party where she's located. And here is where we get Vanessa's redemption arc. Being a single parent is hard, and Vanessa feels as if she's doing a terrible job since she can't secure a decent job and feels she sent her daughter into a dark path since Rochelle reminds Vanessa of herself when she was a teen. And the teens that actually hear her venting actually show how great of a mom she really is, because Vanessa actually does listen and cheer her daughter up, not being neglectful, and is doing a great job trying to support her family. After this, Vanessa gets the call from Rochelle and both find each other at the payphone, with Rochelle's zero-gravity environment and trying to reconcile. This is probably the best way to make a somewhat divisive character a lot more enjoyable, showing how she acknowledges her flaws, actually trying to go after her daughter, making sure she's safe, and owning up to her mistakes while communicating with her daughter. And this goes the same with Rochelle as well. I will admit, I don't like Vanessa's coping mechanism, as it's just a bunch of her followers being floating hearts just glazing her non-stop. Like, don't, she's not tier 3 sub-worthy. Also, when Vanessa is trying to locate her daughter and asks her followers to help, they all just collectively work together to track down this house live. Like, what? That's doxing right there. I think this character Tom is a highlight here in both episodes. This guy is just such a lovable dork with his stoner energy, or I guess popsicle energy, I don't know, he's a middle schooler. Also, this interaction between him and Vanessa in the car is pretty hilarious too.
Okay, Tom, what are you involved in? I know you're corrupting my baby.
What? No, I just met him. I don't even know its name.
He just doesn't care and is oblivious to anything. What a Chad. So yeah, overall, these two overlapping episodes of The Mother and Daughter were really good. Way better than the first two episodes. And we also get another set of overlapping episodes with episodes 5 and 6.
Taylor! How much longer?
Probably the most random character to ever get a spotlight episode. Yet, it's one of the most effective episodes in my eyes. Like, seriously. Ira is the younger brother to one of the Pickles players, Taylor, who uses his imagination at the games to liven up the boredom he faces with his cardboard telescope. It also doesn't help that his imagination distances anyone who wants to be friends with him. So, his sister is really his only friend. So it kinda sucks when Taylor is now hanging out with the pitcher, Ewan, leaving Ira to eventually hang out with the bleacher creatures. I don't know how everyone feels about the bleacher creatures, but I honestly enjoyed how they actually accepted Ira into their pack, and encouraged Ira's imagination, even if it just was for stealing stuff from the concession stand. Gosh, I heavily relate to this kid. For someone who also struggles to make any friends, Ira really spoke to me personally, relying on other people who will easily manipulate you. The part where Rochelle escapes and this Steve Harrington guy gets mad and starts lashing out on poor Ira and ends up breaking his telescope, oh, that just made me feel so sad. Bro, he just wanted to play Smash Brothers, why did you do that? And at the end, when Ira tries to write an apology for the concession stand lady, and Scoops Ahoy returns, fixing his telescope was so heartwarming, even though I knew he was just going to betray Ira again. That one moment showed that he still wants to be friends with him. Jeez, how is this least important character in the series the one that felt the most heart-crushing to watch? I don't know, maybe it's just me. Really goes to show you how lonely I actually am.
Do you want to go out or what?
Oh, really? That's your boat?
Smooth.
Now the other episode tied to this revolves around Ewan, the star pitcher. Ewan is pretty much the stereotypical, overconfident, funny, arrogant kid who acts like a hotshot, but deep down has a sensitive side he doesn't want to share. So, we get another instance like Laurie where we've already seen a bunch of these characters before. Oh, I wonder why he's acting all smug. I hope he's not hiding any insecurities. Uh-oh. Now Ewan's little insecurity happens to be this cardboard cutout version of himself named Little Ewan.
Please like me.
Okay, I know it's not played for laughs, but that first glimpse of Little Ewan cracked me up. Please like me? Look, while it's cute, the writers thought up with this image of a little insecurity Ewan has being a tiny, sad cutout. Most of its presentation felt a little annoying.
Is this happening? Marry me!
It was a bit cringe for me. Speaking of cringe, the amount of times they kept showing his meme of Laurie. It wasn't funny the first episode, it isn't funny this time. Bleh. Now, Ewan actually has a crush on Taylor, you know, Ira's sister, and after they start dating, we actually get a new side to Ewan. He starts becoming a lot nicer, helping Taylor become a catcher, and showing how lucky he is to have her when talking to Kai.
I'm lucky to have her.
Actually, I'm lucky to have her.
And this is the Ewan that I like. It's also great that once Ewan actually opens up to Taylor, they both show a little version of themselves. And we get a cute montage of their cutout versions living in this papercraft heart, which feels very heartwarming. Yeah buddy, the puns are coming back. Now things take a turn when Ewan notices Taylor talking to Tom and feels insecure. Man, Tom really is a Chad this whole series. My man. While Ewan and Taylor start ignoring each other, their little versions start fighting, and Taylor ends up packing and leaving the papercraft heart with a heartbroken Ewan. It also gets worse at the championship too, when their hatred for each other affects the game and Taylor runs off. It does suck that Ewan is back to his ego-driven self, but I do feel kinda bad for him and Taylor as well, for not working it out. That being said though, while the montage of the little cutouts was really cute, the little Ewan itself felt really kind of annoying. I do think this is a little better than Laurie's episode as we actually get to see some development from Ewan, even if it's for a brief few minutes.
Has anyone seen Rochelle?
I was just with her mom, actually.
Well,
But okay, if you've heard anything about the series, besides the mid-trailer, you've probably heard about the controversy behind the executive decision to remove a storyline about a trans character. And while that character still does exist in the show, they are now cisgender, altering course of a more tolerable experience. Look, we'll get into that controversy in a bit, but how is the finished product? Episode 7, I Got This, we follow a girl named Kai whose story actually dates a year earlier than previous episodes, showing how she ended up befriending and playing for the Pickles and her love for softball. With this starts a high standard from her dad who used to play baseball and pressures her to become the best player on the team. This starts Kai's insecurity as she feels like sinking into the ground. But her coping mechanism is actually from her teammates congratulating her just for trying, allowing her to float up in the air without a care in the world. We still get the whole classroom cheat scene as Kai was caught in the crossfires. Hey, Tom didn't get in trouble though, cause he's cool like that.
I'm cool like that. I'm cool like that.
Trying to pick herself up, she trains with Laurie for the big game while also venting about her dad, until she gets hit by Laurie's softball and sprains her ankle. Trying to keep this hidden from the coach and her dad, the championship becomes stressful as Rochelle is missing, Taylor quits, and it's up to Kai to think of a solution to make this work with the pressure of her dad watching.
hey, coach, I think you can shake things up at first.
Yeah, I got it, James. Kai, what are we thinking?
Shake it up at first.
Shake it up at first!
So if you couldn't tell from the very beginning of this episode, Kai is supposed to be trans. They never fully say this, but it's heavily implied with the shorter hair, the hiding of the pictures at her grandma's house, the picking at her backpack, probably referencing her original name. While it does suck that Disney caved into conservative ideologies and took away what could have been a great storyline, Pixar made sure most of Kai's identity was kept in without having to say much. There's also this theory of Laurie being Christian with her praying in the first episode, and the studio probably altered Kai into cisgender to fit into Laurie's religion as well. Look, it does suck that Disney did this to Kai, but overall I think this episode is still effective in what it wants to say. Even with the whole LGBTQ thing, it still shows the expectations of someone going above and beyond, and the pressure of keeping that momentum without letting the people you love down. And this is definitely one of the few highlights here. Which leads us to the final episode, the one where everything comes together. Or tries to come together. This episode is focused on the coach of the team, which is also Laurie's dad, Dan. Taking care of the field and being proud of his team, Coach Dan really strives to be the best coach he can possibly be, having his coping mechanism be this huge glass dome around the field, encompassing good and positive vibes. Outside of the field, Dan is struggling from his divorce and trying to be a good role model for Laurie, living in a motel and also sometimes sleeping in his own car. It also doesn't help when this PTA team tries to make Kai's dad the new coach and replace him. This makes Dan's insecurities inflate when he's stressed, and it also gets worse at the championship game, when both he and James get into an argument about how to run the team, with Frank also interjecting, and then this happens.
Hey, get your hands off the game ball! Oh, I'll put my hands on anything I want.
I'm sorry, I can't take this seriously. Dan's anxiety is probably the worst one here, especially since this is the big climax here, and we're going for Balloon Dan? It also sucks too because this is the longest episode so far, but Dan really gets the least amount of characterization here, because we still have to wrap up everyone else's story. Okay, so the bleacher creatures trick Ira from befriending him again, as they steal the money from the stands, and Ira grabs the money and gives off a chase. And, oh, okay, I guess we're not getting a chicken face reveal here. Taylor and Ewan aren't Athena anymore, but she does come in to save Ira from the creatures with an awesome 2D to 3D clash, and I like when different styles of animation blend well. Meanwhile, the game is still going, and Kai has to take charge in stopping the opposing team from scoring. Lori gets hit, Kai gets a hit, Lori is a slow wimp, and the team gets Kai out, according to Frank's umpire skills. This leads Kai to sink into the ground, and James tries to interfere by calling a bad play. James and Dan start arguing, and Dan accidentally pushes Frank to the point where he kicks him out of the game.
You are out of here! Frank, please. You are out of here!
And Dan just becomes this huge, fuming balloon that everyone has to calm down. I mean, I guess I've seen worse, but Dan being the final boss that just ends up being an inflated version of himself is just downright silly. It also doesn't help that his daughter calms him down by saying,
It's just a game, Dad!
They definitely try to rush everyone's stories here as a speed run. Lori's story kind of already concluded in her episode, so her main point was to help her dad out. Ewan pretty much snaps out of his heartbreak to help as well. Rochelle and Vanessa just show up at the game. We don't even see them have a heart-to-heart discussion about what they were going through that week just to endure in the chaos. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Ira and Taylor part reuniting and taking down the bleacher creatures. And Kai and her dad actually talk and apologize for the overshooting. Probably the weirdest here is Frank. Remember when I said that the writers kind of underwritten him and only had little development in his episode? Well, they must have realized that and put him in the situation where he saves Vanessa's baby from choking. And then all of a sudden, these two start becoming a thing?
So, what's your next play?
Ew.
Hold on, what? This just comes out of nowhere. Did you not see her bully you at the teacher conference? Ugh. Ugh. Okay, so the Pickles end up calming Dan down, and he apologizes for his actions, and resumes the game. And then, it just cuts forward to the game in a pizza place. So, we actually don't know if they won the game or not. I'm gonna say yes, just because it seems like everyone is happy. Who knows? So, do I think this was a big hit for Pixar? Well, I may have my problems with some of the direction, but overall I think the miniseries was pretty solid for what it offered. A ragtag team of kids who each get their own time to shine is pretty effective for the most part, and I like how you see each character's perspectives and situations. Not to mention the subtle changes in episodes too. Like for example, when Rochelle makes fun of Ewan for hinting at a crush on Lori, Lori tries to play it off like it's funny. But in Ewan's episode, Lori is generally more enthusiastic and wants to hang out.
My mom owns a Dairy Queen. If you want, we could grab a Blizzard sometime.
Same thing happens when Ewan calmly says he likes Taylor, but in his own perspective, he shuts it out nervously. Another instance is when Rochelle gets called out by Frank for cheating on her test, and she looks nervous because she got in trouble. But in Frank's episode, it seems like she doesn't even care. Being more easygoing towards Frank even steals his food. It's funny seeing the little differences in these characters. Overall, the message here is positive, overcoming challenges and processing situations that the show promotes. There may be some characters that I feel need to be fleshed out more, but even the worst characters don't really feel that bad to me personally. I guess I could rank the episodes based on enjoyment. Last place is the final episode. It felt a little jarring to cram all these plot lines together, and the dad just felt like such a waste of a character. Number 7 is Frank. I don't know, it was cute in some places, but most of the time it felt a little cringe, and I didn't like what the writers did to Frank. Number 6 is Vanessa. What can I say? I guess the adults didn't impress me that much. Although, Vanessa was a huge improvement in what she was originally and blossomed on her own as the series continued. Number 5 is Lori. It's a pretty basic story of overcoming anxiety, there's nothing wrong with that. Number 4 is Ewan. Seeing him grow from self-absorbed to actually caring is sweet, and I like this dynamic between him and Taylor. The cutout stuff can be hit or miss, but it's still effective when done properly. Number 3 is Rochelle. Actually being a responsible kid, and knowing how cautious she can be towards her actions. I also just love her insecurities being the zero-gravity aesthetic, it's just cool. Number 2 is Kai. A really effective story on fitting in and dealing with the pressure of overexceeding expectations. And even though they cut out the plot of Kai being trans, there's still sprinkles of that being shown, and I think any trans kid can relate to Kai's struggles. And finally, Ira. I don't know, man. I just relate to this kid as a whole. Using his imagination to liven up the mood, him having no friends, and when he does make friends, they use them for their own benefit. I mean, God, he just wanted to play Smash!
I have a really bad, like, Australian-sounding accent, but I'm really bad at it. Do you want to hear it?
Okay, yeah.
Just like, spend most of their lives underground, mate.
What?
So yeah, this show actually surprised me. Pixar was able to balance humor with serious themes and took different animation styles and blended them beautifully. Some episodes lack resolution without any real closure, looking at you, Frank. But despite these issues, this was a pleasant surprise. I'm glad I took the time to watch this, and I hope anyone who hasn't seen it yet, give it a watch as well. Oh yeah, I forgot the most important character of this entire show.
Hit or be hit. Your fate is your own. There are many fish in the sea. Choose wisely. Beware the chicken. Answer the call of the unknown. Better not blow it.
The Orange Soda Kid, Mr. Kel Mitchell over here. This kid just randomly shows up at the weirdest times but also warns the characters about certain stuff. Boy, they should have gave him his own episode. Tell him why drinking that whole liter of soda is eventually going to turn him into Boogie 2988.
Did you drink my Mountain Dew? Did you drink my Mountain Dew?